It's 5:15. We'll go ahead and call this regular school board meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everyone that's in the audience with us tonight. Let's go ahead and stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have nothing under public communication. Are there any conflicts of interest to declare? With that, we will move on to our consent agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion by Roger. Second by Melissa. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll move into our regular meeting for tonight. We have nothing under recognition or correspondence, so we'll move into the reports. First report is the superintendent's report. Dr. Leck?
Thank you. You do have the written report in front of you. I'm going to focus really on two different topics. I'll brush on some other ones, but really focus on two. The first is tuition agreements and open enrollments. Every year at this time, I feel it's appropriate to have a conversation again about the process for open enrollments and tuition agreements. I think it's important for a board and really for those in the community to understand that tuition agreements and open enrollments work in concert together. Oftentimes, if you have a tuition agreement, that means you have an open enrollment. Oftentimes, if you have a request for an open enrollment, depending on where they meet in the deadline, you may also have a tuition agreement. So they work in concert, oftentimes together. The other point I want to make is that there are times when we get tuition agreements that are the result potentially of placements or other types of situations. We don't share those in the same way because there could end up being a breach of confidentiality for potentially some services that somebody's being provided. So I bring that up because that happens where sometimes we have tuition agreements that they're public and they're clear that it states the same agreement, and there's other times when we just list, hey, we have a tuition agreement to approve, and again it breaches some confidentiality. So that's the difference with tuition agreements, the ones that we see that are directly linked and those that are not. And I'd be happy to answer questions with those if you have them, but we do monitor the costs. That's something that happens through the contract system. So we keep a pretty good tabs on those. We have to approve them all. So if that comes, we do want to make sure that you're aware of that difference. In terms of open enrollments, as I said, tuition agreements are generally a bridge to open enrollments. When we get a request, really those agreements allow for a student to move to a school district outside his or her school district. Those must be approved annually, while open enrollments exist in perpetuity. So again, you say that request comes in June to move from one place to another, one school to another. You get that tuition agreement, that's a bridge until we can do an open enrollment. So again, I share that because we get a tuition agreement and then we get that open enrollment. It looks, how it could be misleading in terms of the number, because really you have to do both. Because tuition agreements, there's the potential for an exchange of funds between school districts. Those require approval from both sides. Open enrollments are allowed by law, and so the only required approval is the admitting district, not the resident district. Because by law, and actually this law changed maybe 5 or 6 sessions ago, where it used to be both schools had to approve. They changed that process because legally you have the right to do that. The resident district really doesn't have the authority to say, well, no, you can't. It's the admitting district that has to have the approval, because they're saying, well, do we have open enrollment? Do we allow open enrollment in this circumstances and all circumstances? So that's the difference there. Districts are not allowed to discriminate applications for open enrollment. So you are either open or you're closed. You can't say, well, we accept open enrolled students as long as they meet these criteria, but we deny them if they don't meet those criteria. You can close them off in all whole areas. We don't have any capacity for any elementary students. we don't have capacity in our high school students, something like that you can certainly do, but that has to be determined at the board level. But it is not a carte blanche we can pick and choose. You either open or you're closed. There is no discrimination allowed for obvious reasons. The one other difference between tuition agreements that again can sometimes mislead in terms of the number. Tuition agreements are done by families. Open enrollments are done by individual. So you might have a tuition agreement for one family of 4 kids in June, and then in February, after the deadline, or in March after the February deadline, you would have to act on open enrollments for each of those individual students separately. So again, that's one instance of a student transfer or of a family making a change of school, but you would result in 5 different approvals. One is a tuition agreement and then 4 individual open enrollments. So again, just helping people understand what that really means. We do see this, but there are times when we see the tuition agreement and open enrollment process happen more than once. I'll give you an example just as this isn't a real situation, but just a hypothetical. Say a family moves that has been educated in Montpelier School District for 5 years, and they're now a 6th grade, say a 6th grader, and all of their education has been in Montpelier. That family moves to a farm in Ypsilanti. Technically in the Jamestown School District, they want to continue to be educated in Montpelier. They would, because they have now moved, they would have to fill out an open enrollment to attend the same school they have attended for 6 years. So now in this same situation, imagine now they are in high school, they want to take advantage of opportunities educationally in Edgeley. They would have to fill out a tuition agreement, get that approved to go to Edgeley, and then get an open enrollment. That would come through us because we are still their resident, the resident district. So we could see that and say that family does not like Edgeley and chooses to go then to back to Montpelier, we would see that whole process start over again. So every move of district results in the same process restarting again. So you'd go back to the tuition agreement and open enrollment process again. So just to reaffirm what the process looks like, and like I said, I feel it's appropriate every year at this time, because we do get open enrollments and we do get tuition agreements. This is the time when we see a lot of those agreements just based on the deadline for open enrollment. So questions on that at all? The next thing that I wanted to spend a little bit of time with was a comprehensive literacy state development grant. So as you're aware, we did receive the Striving Readers grant a few years ago, about 1.25, a shade under 1.25 million for 3 years, 2018 to 2021. We're happy to get that grant. I think it's been a benefit to our district. We are also have taken advantage of applying for so that's the Circle grant, or what they call the Circle grant. We also are taking advantage of applying for the Comprehensive Literacy State Development Grant, so that's the closed. So you have the Circle grant, the closed grant, and there's a span for that grant from 2019 to 2024, so you can recognize some overlap there. The way we wrote the grant, there's really nothing new happening until 2022. There are some activities happening in that what would be next year, the second year of the grant. They consider this the first year of the grant, even if we're only notified in April. They still call that a year of the grant. But we would have an opportunity to really extend what we've started with the Circle grant and expand it into those last 3 years of the grant. I think it's a great opportunity for us as a district. The grant is around, or our application was around 2.8 million, just a shade under 2.8 million. So I think we've targeted some really important key areas that can improve literacy instruction, not just in Jamestown, but in our community. Similar to the Circle grant, this requires support for the birth to what they are now calling kindergarten entry, so the birth to age 5 area. I think we've gotten some good traction with the Circle grant activities there. I think we're at a point where we can really start to make a difference in that category. So it's something that I hope, I'm crossing my fingers. I think that we have hopefully a good chance at that grant, but I wanted to recognize Lana Meisner, Joe Hageland, Brandy Euland, worked with me quite a bit to get this grant done in a short period of time. So it was a lot of what we did for a couple of weeks, but I think it was worth it. Just a few areas that we would focus on in this grant outside of continuing the existing grant. We're looking at enhancement of instructional coaching to get to a closer ratio that we think could really make a difference. We absolutely see the value of instructional coaches. So does the research, and so does the state. I think it goes a lot to the research around instructional coaches when this grant requires a commitment to instructional coaching within the model. If you don't, it is one of the requirements of the grant is that you support instructional coaching in your building. And so there's enhancement of instructional coaching, an additional EL instructor, which I feel like we need within our, certainly could use the additional support. What I call a home liaison, somebody that could support literacy, but also foundational needs for disadvantaged students. Adoption of guided reading as an instructional method at K-5. So that would mean training in pre-K and child cares for guided reading. Again, you're trying to create some synergy, some connection between what exists at those levels and what exists at the elementary level. Augmenting libraries, both school and then pre-K and child care to, again, support guided reading method of instruction. Programming that supports kindergarten readiness, available at no cost to families that wish to access it. That could include the North Dakota Reading Academy, which is an online, I think I've shared this before. It was called NDK Read. It was shared. It was called the Waterford Institute's Upstart. I think I've shared it in a couple different varieties. They keep changing the name, but it's a great online resource for families. There is what we're calling literacy day camps, opportunities for families to work together with their kids, kind of on that gearing up for kindergarten model of parents and students coming in together and then splitting apart. So we're excited about that. Steve done writing, which we've heard about already a little bit. That's in the early elementary grades and continuing that expansion throughout the K-12 level. And then specialized literacy training for instructional coaches, which is also a requirement of the grant. So in a nutshell, it was a lot of work. We'll find out in about a month if we've received the grant and to what degree. I mean, that could be we get funded at $2.8 million. That could be they split it in half and say everybody gets half of what they asked for. That could be a competitive where they say these 20 schools were funded, these 20 schools were not. We don't know what that's going to look like. We wanted to make sure, though, that we took into account every need in literacy and put together the best plan to get everything that we think that we can get and need in terms of that. One of the things that I referenced in my report, though, is I think we have to look, if we're being reasonable, we have to look at sustainability. And one of the things that I would say is we need to assess those all the time. We need to assess what we need. But a lot of what we're enhancing, some of what we're enhancing is short term. If we want to enhance our instructional coaches for a period of time, that's directly related to certain projects, things like guided reading implementation. Steve done writing. We're very training heavy. Does that mean that in 2024 that we're going to continue along with that number of coaches? That'd be great. I'm telling you, I would love that, but I don't think that that's possible. Now, could we continue what we have right now with 5? I think we can, and I have some sustainability plans for that to happen. But some of this we have to think about short-term staffing. We're trying to get certain projects done, building capacity in certain things. Is all of that expected to be taken over by the district? No. We have to prioritize what's going to continue and what isn't. But we have a long time horizon to make some of those decisions. And so we know what we need in the short term, and we're going to build towards that in the long term. So just completing my report, just to touch on a few things. Ending fund balance and in the next, later on in the agenda, you're going to talk about some of the things that were discussed at the Finance Committee for some recommendations. The other thing that isn't there that we're going to talk about at our next meeting is establishing a goal target for your ending fund balance. And just to give you some preparation, I think I mentioned this before, we're targeting, or at least the recommendation of the committee was 13% in an ending fund balance of expenditures. That's probably where we're at, and that's what we're going to shoot for. And I will put together a board memo that outlines what that might look like. So just so you're aware that that's coming. I wanted to touch base again on school-based mental health. I referenced a breakout session that I attended at National Conference, and it just so happened that the day after we met, Ed Week came out with an article from EA, or based on this same presentation. And so I gave you the Ed Week article, which is the short version, and then the full report, which is a longer 20-page version, which has about 13 different strategies to support school-based mental health. So it's a great article. It's a great report. I would certainly encourage you to take the time to look at it. I just met earlier today, actually right before this meeting, with the University of Jamestown, and we've had great conversations, and nothing to share formally with the board, but just that we're continuing to have great conversations relating with partnering in a lot of different areas. So I couldn't be any more pleased with those discussions and just the opportunities to partner in a lot of different areas with the University of Jamestown. They are a great partner in our community. Lastly, I don't think it's a surprise to anybody that we've had questions about the coronavirus and how that could impact school. It's not something, as I referenced, that necessarily requires immediate action. It does necessitate some conversations, and we want to make sure that our families understand that we are certainly monitoring the situation. We're working with Central Valley Health, working with the Department of Health in terms of planning. We are also having internal discussions regarding lots of different situations and how we could potentially respond to that. But just want to make everybody aware it's not anything that we want people to be alarmed about, but we have to be planning and thinking about what may happen, and that this is something that's on our radar. So with that, I stand for questions.
Any questions for Dr. Leck? Jason?
On the closed grant, did we identify the number of staff that we would be looking at hiring, or is that kind of just dependent upon what we get back for? Did we identify a number of new staff in that grant?
Yep, that is written in. I think I gave you a link to the grant, but that includes a home liaison, EL instructor, 2 instructional coaches, and then continuing with what we've done already in the Circle grant. So a lot of great opportunities in my mind to impact kids.
Any, Heidi?
I have just a couple of comments. The grant, I appreciate the people's time that worked on that. I saw it was 42 pages long, and so that definitely had taken some time to put in. I also, just feeding off your question, with the positions hired, I'm glad that we're being very transparent about the fact that, if we get this grant, this may not be all sustained, these positions might not be sustainable. And I appreciate the fact that we're being very transparent about that and open about that. We don't want to overpromise anything, particularly with the other discussions of our ending fund balance and all the other goals that we're trying to make. Secondly, I'm glad to hear that we're at least having the conversations and staying top of the potentials for the coronavirus, just to be, not to create alarm or panic, but just to make sure that we've had some conversations in place. Thank you.
Jason?
And my question on the coronavirus is, how are we comfortable with the maintenance and janitorial staff in each facility? Are we adequately staffed there? I notice once in a while we're posting for some custodians, so I think that's key to in keeping them healthy and doing their part. Are we sitting good there?
Well, we struggle with all of our support staff in maintaining a full contingent of people in our support staff. I have great confidence, though, with the custodians that we do have in place. I think we're short 1 in the district right now. And I know that actually Mr. Gaylor and I just had a conversation about this earlier today, approving some overtime to cover a different building because of the shortage. But I have great confidence in our janitorial staff. They take great pride in their building. They treat the buildings like it's their own home. And when we put a greater priority on disinfecting because of any contagious and it doesn't have to just be coronavirus. It could be a flu outbreak. There's always a little bit extra then on their plate to make sure that that there's the cleanliness that needs to happen to make sure. And we've sent out some emails to building principals recently. We have that on our agenda tomorrow to continue to reinforce the need to do that. But yeah, they do a good job. They could be stretched thin, but they'll continue to do what they need to do.
Sorry, just real quick, do we ever send out anything encouraging parents to keep their sick kids at home? Have we ever done anything like that?
Well, we sent out a message just on our app today. It didn't necessarily say that. It's just tips on, hand washing and just, again, supporting the knowledge that, hey, we are considering the coronavirus and planning ahead, and these are the people, these are the partners that we're working with. We haven't sent out that particular message, but we do send that out. I think it's known for the most part that when kids are sick, we want them home, just because we have 700 kids, 700 plus in different buildings, and those things can spread pretty quick, whether it's coronavirus or influenza B.
Any other comments or questions for Dr. Luck's report? Okay, thank you. We will move on. Next under our agenda is Board Education. We'd like to welcome Caroline Thompson and Tom Mouse to the podium to visit with us about PLC's essential questions number 3 and number 4. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening. Thank you for having us and giving us this time to share with you. We understand you've been engaged in the study of our professional learning communities, and we certainly value that interest that you have and the background knowledge that you have. So I'll get right to our questions. We are at the intersection of, after you have analyzed your data, what do you do? Our question 3 presents us with what do you do that those that have not learned it, and then our question 4, and then what do you do for those that have? And so we bring these questions to our dialogue every week and wrangle with them, and they give us directives as we endeavor to meet learning for all as a true mission. One of the guides that is interesting for our PLC discourse said that this question 3 actually provides the metaphorical fork in the road for reaching that mission, that now you are truly going to wrangle with all students, all content, and get to the bottom of that and provide systematic, timely, directive ways to make sure that that happens in your building. So it is a very valuable part of our conversations that we plan for and address every week. And so Tom's going to share our systems that we've put in place at our high school to address that challenge.
For the question 3 with it, when we're looking at students that are coming over from the middle school, what we'd consider the highest risk kids, we have implemented a remediation, try to get them caught up to grade level. So we offer an essentials of algebra class for them that they can take. In the higher to low or middle to lower tier, we have we started a math flex study hall. So students that we deem at risk in possibly algebra 1, geometry, or algebra 2, we offer a study hall that's taught by a math teacher, so they can get the questions there. They have that every day, so it's a little extra with that. On Wednesdays, we have a math flex where at least one teacher of every subject area in the math department is there for 30 minutes of extra help. That's what we do kind of as a math department as a whole. Inside of our classrooms, I think we just use some teacher strategies that have proven effective for all students, but some of the things, maybe getting the students to be able to self-assess where they're at in the learning cycle, trying to go through that way. And we've tried to implement a little bit more technology using some websites so the students can get some instant feedback and kind of see where they're at in the learning curve, and it allows the teachers to go around and help some of the students that might need a little bit more help. So those are kind of some things we've used in our classroom, but the PLC kind of just working together and using the effective teaching strategies, but communicating with each other and seeing what works in the classroom is kind of where we're at in the process.
We have provided a very rich way to address that question, as you can see, with multiple supports and timeframes. And we strive to reevaluate our addressing of that question every year. So next year, we'll be continuing that conversation. And then our question 4, what do you do for those that have reached the learning that need that extra challenge? And we have many things put in place, and you all approve some even more advanced courses. We thank you for that for us next year for those students. We have a very talented student body group at our high school that we're so proud of, and we look forward to so much coming out of them. And Tom's going to share some of our high-end ways that we meet that.
So just as a probably school-wide as a whole for the gifted ones to get them, just in the math department, we've added a probability and statistics dual credit class just in the last couple of years. Mrs. Carpenter teaches a modeling class for maybe some of the students that want the hand-on approach that we've just started that in the last year or two. The engineering day just had for 20 girls went over there from the high school. So they did that. And then the makerspace we have going, the robotics club just participated. So all of that stuff kind of outside the classroom is opportunities for some of the gifted students that we'd have. Inside the classroom, I think probably the best thing that we're kind of going toward would be more of a peer teaching where they can give examples, kind of putting it in their own words and being able to help the other students. So it's not just always a teacher in front of the classroom, but getting the more advanced students to kind of do part of the teaching so they can help some of their classmates. And some of the classmates, I think, appreciate that and just hearing it from a different perspective.
So we want to take questions on our process, and you might have.
Well, thank you for that information. It definitely brings a little more context to these PLC questions. Do we have any questions or comments for Caroline or Tom? Okay, well, thank you. Oh, Bob, sorry.
Sorry, and maybe I missed something, but you talked extensively about math. How about language arts?
Yes. Well, we have striven to have the same supports in the language art, the extra time, the extra classes, a block schedule for those students that need that double block back-to-back in the language arts, and then enrichments of the flex period, an English study hall where they can go and receive help just for that. So double blocking, calling them out for flex if we need to. The students that need to be really targeted, a teacher can request them on a Wednesday when we have 30 minutes built in for an even more supportive session. Well, we have the AP Lang and the AP Literature that we offer for the junior and senior year, and we have lots of enrichment through, we try to foster rich writing and rich across our curriculum, and lots of projects going on using language, even in science, to do video projects, persuasive writing for environmental campaigns. Recently was a fun project, and so we try to really broaden that into being a school-wide initiative to reach out in our literacy methods of challenge.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Thank you both for coming. We appreciate your time and sharing what the good work you're doing at the high school. Thank you. We will move on then in our agenda. We have nothing under old business, so moving into new business. We have nothing under activities, buildings and grounds, curriculum assessment and instruction, but we do have stuff under finance. Can I have a motion to approve the ability to submit the Comprehensive Literacy State Development Grant? Motion by Bob, second by Heidi. Dr. Leck, do you have any comments? Any discussion? Well, good luck. I hope we get it. It's fantastic. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on to letter B, can I have a motion to approve the support staff schedule for the 2020-2021 school year? Motion by Roger, second by Melissa. Roger, could you give us a little synopsis on the support staff wages, please?
I will. I mean, we met Monday on February 17th, and we discussed the support staff and the proposal on the not the proposal, but the matrix. We are moving from 1750 to 1950, excuse me, to 1975, and then each lane will go from between 17 cents and 21 cents per hour. And along with the steps between 23 cents and 30 cents, current employees will increase a range from 40 cents to 50 cents. And those employees with 11 or more years of experience will receive a 75-cent increase in their hourly wage. The committee also discussed summer help and activity workers help. The proposal adds the activity worker to the summer help lane and increasing the wage from $10 to $10.50 and raising the summer help by 50 cents an hour and the activity worker pay by $1.50 an hour. So.
Thank you for that. Any questions for Roger and Bob, both sit on the Finance Committee? Any questions for them? I did have one question. When you were looking at this, were we comparing on trying to have some retention with our salaries and meeting the market value of where our community is at?
Absolutely. I mean, we're looking at other employers in town and so on, and to retain the employees that we have, and then also to have a wage that's going to attract people coming into our district. I mean, that was all discussed.
Very good. We want to keep being competitive.
Correct.
Any question or discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on to letter C, can I have a motion to approve the non-teaching professional salaries for the 2020-2021 school year? Motion by Jason, second by Roger. Bob or Roger, could you give us a little synopsis of the discussion? Thank you.
There. The practice over the years has been trying to give raises to this group based similar to teacher negotiations and then prorate it based on the number of days that they work, which is in some cases different from the period of time that teachers work. For the 2021 contract period school year, this is about $1,300 annually, so the consensus then of the group was to approve a $1,300 prorated raise for the non-teaching professionals. And if you look in your materials, there's a list of who the non-teaching professionals are. Positions. Social workers, mostly social workers and tech people,
Okay.
non-administrative.
Thank you. Any questions for the Finance Committee members? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you for those reports. And then lastly, on letter D, can I have a motion to approve the central office administration salaries for the 2020-2021 school year? Motion by Roger. Second by Bob. And Roger?
There we go. In this, we discussed the increase for the teachers and administrators was reviewed, and the consensus was to approve a 4% increase on central office administration. And then we talked about the food service director also and retiring, and the amount of that for the new candidate, that range would be from $50,000 to $70,000. We also discussed, the board approved a 3-year contract for Dr. Leck for 2020, 21, and then 2022. So there was no discussion on that. Then we also talked about the ending fund balance, but we talked about that in his report. So overall, it's the 4% increase on the central office administration.
Any questions for the committee? Thank you for that report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on to number 5, personnel. Can I have a motion to approve the letters of resignation, which are for extended contracts only, for Cody Mickelson, Claudia Wolf, and Pam Schmiedeberg? Motion by Bob, seconded by Roger. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Can I have a motion to approve the 1-year leave of absence for Tracy Gustafson? Motion by Roger, second by Melissa. Any discussion? Jason?
And I realize that we probably can't discuss these in a lot of detail, but I do want to express some concern over any teacher, wishing to make a leave of absence for whatever reason. And there were some verbiage used in this that really, really concerned me. So I want us to always be aware of as a board, that we have what we need in place to support our teachers, because I sure hope we see both of these teachers back within a year. And I honor the request, but with sadness.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Can I have a motion to approve the 1-year leave of absence of Shelley Mansavage? Motion by Rogers, seconded by Jason. Any discussion? Bob?
Just for Dr. Leck, as you look to fill these two positions, how difficult is it going to be? I'm concerned with the special ed in particular. Those are tough to find. And then on a 1-year contract, I guess just expressing the concern maybe similar to what Jason did about losing this person and hoping they will come back next year after the year. So, but what are your thoughts on filling the positions?
Just like any position, we'll do our best to make sure that we find the best candidate. And we'll go through the same process we go through with others. Is it more difficult to find a 1 year, to fill a 1-year leave of absence? Yes. The good news is that we're a district that's large enough that we'll have openings every year. And we also know that those requesting a year leave of absence are not guaranteed the same position they had. It might be a different position. So if we fill one position, a different position opens up next year, again, based on scope and size of our district. That's pretty reasonable that we're going to have openings that people can apply for. But we do create a contract that states that this is for a 1-year leave of absence. But the reality of it is when we find that person to fill that spot, we'll have some long-term opportunities for them as well. If we were a small district or a rural district, I might be a little bit more concerned with that. I don't find that to be a concern. I will say that I think Ms. Gustafson and Mrs. Mansavage are wonderful teachers. We certainly honor the request for leave of absence, as is their ability to do so in the negotiated agreement. And we look forward to having them back when it is the right time for them.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on to letter D. We will go through the superintendent's evaluation. We do, per the new policy, we do need to have an unsatisfactory or satisfactory motion on each section of the superintendent's evaluation. So we will be going through each section individually. There are 6. However, we do not then need an overall vote of satisfactory or unsatisfactory. So it's just the individuals, okay? So can I have a motion for satisfactory on the goal and vision setting? Motion by Roger, second by Heidi. Any discussion?
What was the number? You want to read the number with the motion?
I can do that. Yeah.
If you want me to have it.
Motion, and maybe you don't need to say the motion, but if you're saying satisfactory, they need to make the motion.
Okay. Okay, so we're gonna start that over again. Dr. Leck's goal and vision setting out of a high score of 4 was a 3.78. Could I have a motion to approve as satisfactory? Motion by Rogers, second by Heidi. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Sorry, it's really tough. It's angled. Where are we at? Down there. All right, moving into section 2, board relations, with a score of 3.76. Can I have a motion for a satisfactory approval? Motion by Roger. Second by Bob. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Can I have, and number 3, section 3 is human resources management with a score of 3.59. Can I have a motion to approve a satisfactory rating for Dr. Leck? Motion by Roger, second by Bob. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay. Okay. And then moving into section 4, which is curriculum and student support services with a score of 3.63. Can I have a, what is it?
I think you say satisfactory.
Can I have
or
a
unsatisfactory,
motion
or is
for
there-
either satisfactory or unsatisfactory?
Motion for satisfactory.
Heidi motions for satisfactory. Can I have a second? Second by Jason. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Section 5 is community relations with a score of 3.74. Can I have a motion for satisfactory or unsatisfactory? Melissa? Melissa motions for satisfactory. Can I have a second? Second by Roger. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Section 6, operations and resource management with a score of 3.78. Can I have a motion for satisfactory or unsatisfactory?
I move for a satisfactory rating under operations and resource management.
Jason motions for satisfactory. Heidi seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you for that, and thank you for your good work, Dr. Leck.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here in Jamestown. Appreciate it very much.
I do have a silly question.
Okay.
And this is hypothetical. Now we don't go back and do an overall satisfactory. What if in one of those sections it would be unsatisfactory? We just,
If the
do we do like a
section-
majority or?
So the procedure is written out from the North Dakota School Boards Association, and if an area were to be marked as unsatisfactory, then an explanation and recommendations must be made by the board for that specific section. And then when we are doing our evaluations, if we ourselves were to mark it as an unsatisfactory, which with our scoring is a 1 or a 2, you do need to provide per the procedure recommendations for improvement. Okay, good question. Thank you, Jason. Anything else? Moving on to number 6, policies and procedures. Can I have a motion to approve the second reading of the BFA Board Superintendent Relations Policy? We can do all of them. I just saw that they were all second. So let's go ahead and combine. Can I have a motion to approve the second readings of BFA Board Superintendent Policy, BFB Board Staff Communications Policy, and BGA Board Communications with Public Policy? Motion by Roger, second by Melissa. And okay, any discussion?
I'll second.
Thank you, Jason. That's okay. Can you turn on your mic?
Just a point of clarification on these three. It talks about the superintendent being the liaison and that all information goes through the superintendent to the board. Just want to have a point of clarification that if a teacher or staff member or somebody out in the community wants to approach a school board member and ask a question, that is still okay.
Go ahead.
Yes. This just clarifies the process, but absolutely that would be fine. Oftentimes, as you know, you are getting a question which then becomes redirected through the chain of command. I think this is a direct question related to the work of the district. That, oftentimes those questions are redirected through the chain of command.
Any further discussion? Did that answer your question? Great. Anything else? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on to number 7, can I have a motion to approve a tuition agreement for a 7th and 8th grade Jamestown student to attend Pingree Buchanan Public School for the 2019-2020 school year? Motion by Melissa, second by Heidi. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Heidi?
Just with all the tuition agreements, I just want to make sure that if any comments or reasons given, those are always followed up on. I just want verification of that.
Right, correct.
Thank you. We have nothing under number 8, which is other. Are there any items for future agendas that you would like to be added now? Okay, if anything were to come up, please feel free to let myself and Dr. Leck know so we can get them added to our future agendas. Our upcoming scheduled meetings, on Thursday, March 5th, we have the District School Improvement Meeting, which will take place here in this room at 3:30. Then on March 9th, we have a Dollars for Scholars meeting at noon in the district office conference room. On Monday, March 9th at 3:30, there is the Health Insurance Committee meeting, and also in the district office conference room. And then our next regular school board meeting is Monday, March 16th, at 5:15 here in this room. Bob?
And just to note, I won't be able to attend the March 9th meeting of the Health Insurance Committee, and I believe you've got someone else that's taking my place.
Yes, Heidi is able to
So
be
that-
your proxy for
Okay.
the March 9th meeting. Thank you.
Good luck.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, if you would please right-click on your adjournment to let us rate the meeting. From that, the meeting is adjourned.
Super.